Perfect. So, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Katie, and I'm the host and a moderator of our PPM Summer Talks conference, which is a 5-week conference. We're actually starting our second week today with the lovely Brooke. Welcome. Thank you so much for accepting the invite and for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you. Yeah, it's what is a PPM Summer Talks? It's a 5-week conference for anyone who hasn't heard about this idea. Instead of having a 2-day long conference, we've actually came up with the idea on behalf of Y Summit, actually, of this idea of having one online webinar a day for 4 of them a week. And the idea is simple: keeping something really interesting, short and sweet, so people can join us for just 1 hour, and people don't feel sick and tired of sitting in front of a computer as they do nowadays because of the lovely pandemic situation that seems to be around us at all times still. And yeah, so briefly, that's the PPM Summer Talks conference. And I would really like to thank you on behalf of Y Summits for joining us here online at the platform. And, just to say that this conference is here through the PPM workout platform, and everyone is welcome to join, because it's a tool which all the professionals and experts can use to their advantage. We're giving away the tool, but we need professionals and experts like you to join and create life there, because it really is all for you and for everyone to share ideas, inspiration, articles, blog posts, anything. So that's why the PPM Summer Talks is happening through the platform for people to join in. So, please invite all your peers, invite your colleagues, anyone who you think, would be interested, really. We've got another 4 brilliant weeks coming up with the conference, and many lovely things to come up. As a teaser to say, maybe a few more conferences, maybe another blog post, and a lot of lovely things. So yeah, please feel free to join us. As I mentioned, we've got the lovely Brooke Dapolito here with us today. And if you'd like to say a few words before I give the introduction of what I found on you on LinkedIn, please feel free.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Katie. And thank you, Y Summits, again, for having me here. Like I said, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. So I'm looking forward to presenting to you all today, but also just making it an interactive conversation as well. So feel free if you have ideas or stories or questions or comments as I go along, feel free to chime in, because this is really just a conversation as opposed to just me talking at you.
Exactly. We're gonna keep it lovely and sweet for everyone, really, to get a lot of knowledge, but still, as Brooke mentioned, anytime during the presentation or at any point, feel free to raise a hand in the chat or write your question, and let's keep it informal and friendly. We're all human, and we all want to just share and learn from one another. So let's do that. I would like to say a few words about Brooke before she'll give us a lovely presentation after my juicy questions to her as a warm-up. Brooke Dapolito, everyone, is the Associate Director and Project Director at Delcat System. She's an MBA. I did a little bit of a background check on her. She worked for Pfizer Mossack for 7 years as a senior project manager, CPM, the manager of global regulatory submissions, senior associate and associate scientist of ADC operations. She's a result-driven professional who has technical and creativity and people skills. Her strengths are process improvement skills as well as her organizational skills. And she really is a creative person. She uses her creativity to solve complex technical and process-related problems. She both led and been involved in numerous cultural-based activities. And as she believes, they are the foundations of every good team, which is based on a great culture. So welcome again, and hopefully, if there's something that I've missed, pretty sure I did miss a lot of things. Feel free to share anything you'd like, anything that you would like to share about your background or how you came to be who you are right now.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. Really appreciate it. You said most of the things, but yeah, as you probably heard in Katie's introduction, I did start my career out in the lab and quickly realized that portfolio and project management was where I was always meant to be. So my career kind of took me in that direction, and that's where I've been ever since. And happy to be here.
And if I can ask, what did make you stay in the career path that you're in right now? What was maybe the biggest turning point or the proof that you're the right for your position?
Yeah, I think it's just the fact that I feel aligned, right? I feel like I'm using my natural skill set, and I just feel like this is where I'm meant to be. And I feel like I realized it quickly when I was in the lab that I was enjoying my time in the lab, but that wasn't necessarily where I wanted to be long term. But I think, like you had said in my introduction, I really enjoy working with people and the culture that the team creates. So that's something that really interests me. And so that's to me a big part of being a project and portfolio manager is people and relationship building and the culture building.
Yeah, because thank you so much. Because the first time I saw you at one of our conferences, I kind of thought to myself, look at this lady, she's right there speaking, she's really, really young. And that's why it really came to me. And right now, as you've mentioned, you found your path of project and portfolio manager really quickly and at such a young age. So do you count yourself lucky because you don't kind of have to tackle all the questions of life right now?
I do actually, I do feel fortunate in that sense because I feel like I kind of quickly realized where I was meant to be as opposed to, kind of jumping around from thing to thing. But that's not always a bad thing either because it also builds life experience to see and do different things. And so although I'm in project and portfolio management now in my career, who knows, where my next steps will be.
Of course, good luck to you. And also, if you would maybe like to share, are there any dreams or visions that you've got for yourself? Whether that's career speaking or anything for yourself that you would like to share?
Yeah, in my career, I kind of tell people I think, the sky is the limit, and not just in my career, but in everyone's career. Your career is truly what you make of it. And so even though I am relatively young, and people do look at me and say, oh wow, how did you get to such a level? And really it's because of the career that I created for myself. So I really mapped out my own destinies and I took myself there. So I'm big on accountability. So I really think that anyone here, you can get to whatever level and whatever position you want. It's just a matter of having that motivation and that willpower to get there.
Exactly. And, I really agree because it might sound cheesy, but really we do create our own happiness, our own contentment, our own life. We do make our dreams come true. There's no one else, there might be a luck or whatever people call it, but I really do fully agree with you, and it doesn't have to be cheesy. It really is. I mean, we're looking at you right now, and you got yourself exactly where you are, and that's just you, no one else. It's you. So I'm really happy, really, and congratulations to all your achievements so far, because it's great to speak to professionals and experts like yourself, and that's what we're trying to do here as well. So if someone asked you what would be the biggest advice that you could give someone starting out right now, what would your answer be?
Definitely just go with where your heart leads you. Like I said before, my heart initially led me in the lab direction, and I truly think that nothing is for nothing, right? So I was meant to originally start my career off in the lab and then transition into project and portfolio management. So I think that just go with the direction that your heart is taking you, and also obviously put in the self work to get you there. So I think it's a little bit of both, right? So it's kind of aligning with what you want on the inside and what your inner voice is telling you, but also taking those external steps to get you there.
Exactly. Thank you. I feel like this is going to be really wholesome from just listening to you. I can really tell that, hopefully people will feel the love and, the passion that you've got for your work. Just, a quick question for example, so you probably worked yesterday as well. It's Tuesday today.
Yep.
So it was a working day. So is there something that stood out from your work day yesterday? Like, is there something extraordinary that you've done at work yesterday that you could share with us?
Not necessarily yesterday, but
Or, you can tell me.
yesterday was a typical Monday, right? Just trying to get my week together. But I would say in terms of my work here, and it kind of goes to what you had mentioned earlier in my bio, is to bring a little bit of that creativity into your work. Sometimes I know I'm guilty. I get lost, especially, being a process-minded person, I kind of get lost in the steps and the procedures. But sometimes, like, taking a step back and really thinking creatively about a solution really helps you to think about a problem in a different perspective. So for example, when I joined Delcath, I was the only project manager here. And so basically it was, okay, we have an NDA to get out and we need your help in guiding us. And so, through that, I actually had to create new processes, new systems, and use that creativity, right, to create those processes, tools, and systems. And so thinking outside of the box and thinking thinking about process improvement, innovation, creativity, and bringing some of those aspects into your day-to-day instead of just, it gets a little monotonous for me, especially to just kind of turn the wheel and do the same thing over and over again day to day. So I like to add, a little bit of newness and creativity into everything.
And fun and sparkles. And I feel like, everyone needs the creativity really. And I feel as humans, we're so routine and kind of we program ourselves to really just function in a very routine way, and bringing a little bit of fun and creativity to everything that we do, like brushing your teeth with the other hand or whatever it might be, it can be really, really useful to make us think outside of the box. And, speaking of fun and creativity, do you believe in magic?
I do. I consider myself kind of, I was talking to somebody the other day and I was like, I believe in, religion. I won't go down that path, but as well as, the universe and spirituality. So I'm kind of an enigma as well as science. So I kind of believe in everything.
That's really good, honestly. And so if, you said, yes, you do believe in magic. And if you could choose to be a cartoon character, which one would you be?
Ooh, a cartoon character. That's a good question. I thought you were going to ask a superhero. I was going to start going down that road.
Superhero.
A cartoon.
Did you want to say
I was going to say a cartoon character. I would say Tweety Bird.
But that's a cute one, honestly. It's a cute one.
Just because.
Yeah, and it's a chippery one. It's got a great vibe, and I can really feel the vibe through you as well. And not to bore anyone, that was my last fun question for you. And I think everyone is thinking about which cartoon character they would be right now. I think maybe
that's sure. I want some answers at the end.
Feel free to share your answers with us. So thank you again so much for this little round of creative questions, and hopefully I warmed you up a little bit. So everyone, welcome. This is Brooke. I'm gonna give you my word, and it's your chance to shine and give us everything that you've got for us. So thank you again, and this is Brooke.
Thank you. I just noticed that there is a question in the chat. So before I get to my slides, I'll answer that really quick.
Yes.
So the question is, can you give an example of a creative solution to a problem which you have employed? So
good question.
Right
thank
now,
you, Alice.
Yeah, thank you, Alice. Right now, we actually, like I said, I'm the first project manager at Delcath. And so we don't have a system in terms of dashboarding and to see all of the projects going on concurrently and to see where our resources are being allocated. So I'm actually doing a project where I'm looking into Monday.com, which is a project management dashboarding resourcing solution. And so I'm actually employing and starting to create the pilot for our team to evaluate if Monday.com is indeed a creative solution to our needs. But yes, exactly. Thank you, Katie. Yes, keep the questions coming. And if I don't see them while I have my presentation up, you can feel free to write them in the chat. Katie can let me know, or you can feel free to take yourself off of mute if you're brave enough, and I can answer them. But without further ado, I will share my screen. Can everyone see my slides?
Yes, we can. I mean, I can see them, but yeah, we've kind of worked through it. We've gone through it, and everyone should see them well. But I do see you well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Katie. So the title of my presentation is The Role of the Portfolio Manager. I'm Brooke Dapolito, as Katie mentioned before, Associate Director of Project Direction at Delcat Systems. So I will kind of go through my experience as a portfolio manager, but like I said, I'm sure there are many of you on the line who also are currently portfolio managers. And so I'd love to hear your experience as well. And like I said, we can make this an interactive discussion today. Okay. There we go. So discussion topics. So these are kind of the topics that I wanted to discuss with you all today. So this is the agenda. So communication with senior management and others regarding program strategies, resources, and timelines, holding everyone accountable and organized to their individual tasks. As we all know, this can be somewhat challenging as project and portfolio managers. Development of operational plans, including timelines, budgets, resource planning, risk assessment, and contingency planning, forecasting, tracking, and adhering to the program timelines and budget, cross-functional alignment and organizational support for the execution of the operational plan by facilitating internal and external stakeholder meetings, implementing communication plans to promote effective dialogue among stakeholders and navigate arbitration mechanisms to resolve issue escalations, and building transparency and clarity of program goals, progress, and issues. So communication strategies. So these are actually communication strategies that I live by in both my professional and personal life. As we all know, in times, there are times where you have easy communications, you have difficult communications, you have communications that are in between, you have communications that are emotional, that are strategic, and everything in between all of those and every combination of those. So these are just communication strategies that span, communications in general, like I said, any type of communication in any setting. So my first piece of advice would be to plan and prepare. Know your talking points in advance. Know exactly what you want to say and how you want to say it. And by doing that, practice what you want to say, especially in those times where you need to have difficult conversations with people, or you need to make a presentation to your senior leadership. Practice what you want to say so that your communication comes off in the way that you want it to, and you deliver the message in the way that you want to. And the next would be to understand your audience. Next to this one, I have when you are speaking to leadership or senior management, you want to be direct, you want to be concise, you just kind of want to get down to, this is what the team needs, this is what endorsement we're looking for. Get down to truly the business, right? They don't want the fluff, they don't want the details, they just want exactly, they may only have 15 minutes or 30 minutes. So you need to keep your communications short and concise and direct. When you're speaking to the team, that's a different conversation, right? Because they want to go through every detail. They want to go through the content plan. They want to go through the timelines. They want to go through the budget. So be prepared to have those detailed conversations where you go through and you cross every T and you dot every I with the team so that they feel like they're informed and on the same page and aligned with one another on exactly what the plan is. And then these are just general keys to good communication. I like to say it's all in the delivery, right? So if you're delivering a message, again, you may have to deliver, difficult messages sometimes, but if you deliver them in such a way that's professional and respectful, then even though what you're saying may be a difficult conversation to have, at least you're delivering it in the best way possible. So focus on the delivery, and then the message will follow. And always strive for timely and effective communication. So again, timely being, don't wait a month to let your senior management know that, there's been a huge risk or huge delay to the submission timeline. tell them right away, tell them, as soon as so that you can have those right people in the loop at the right time. Or if there is a reason to delay a communication to someone, also think that out as well. And effective communication, again, just going to up to the points above, effective being knowing what you want to say, saying it in a way that the audience will understand it, and in delivering it in the right effective manner. Accountability and task management. So you as a portfolio manager have the sole oversight over the whole program. So it's important to remember that as kind of a key pillar, that you may be the only person who knows everything that's going on in that program, that portfolio, that project, whatever level that you're looking at it from. And so as such, you have a large responsibility for holding everyone accountable to their tasks and actions, because they know what they should know through you what their individual tasks and actions are. And then you need to also be there to follow up and make sure that actions are being completed on time, because you as the portfolio manager, you know how all of the interdependencies work, and you know how all of the pieces link together. So you need to actually know when things need to be due, and you need to know what's on critical path and how everything comes together, so that you get everything on time, so that the next processes can happen either sequentially or in parallel. And as such, you as the portfolio manager need to use your effective communication strategies as discussed in the previous slide, in order to relay to the team how the pieces fit together and how the bigger project comes together, and the criticality of everyone delivering on their committed timelines due to those interdependencies. So I'm constantly reminding my team that, we need this done so that these next pieces can happen. We need this done on this timeline so that this, the ending of this project, or, in my case, I focus on submissions to the FDA, so that this submission can get done by this timeline, because if this one piece is delayed, then it's going to have that snowball trickle down effect and delay the whole team and all of their other activities, and then overall the whole submission timeline. So it's really important that you as the portfolio manager, following up with people may sound, small in terms of the bigger picture, but it is a critical activity, because everyone staying on track and getting what they need to get done, that's key to the success of the overall project. And next is the project management toolkit. So on the left side, we have our project tools. So these are actually the tools that I use most often to really, the technical tools, we'll say, in terms of really tracking the project and the progress of the project. So we have a risk and issue log. This is where I track all of the risks, the probabilities, impact, as well as the mitigation strategy. So oftentimes I actually have weekly meetings to discuss the risks and to make sure that we're managing them properly. The decision action tracker, typically at the end of meetings, we have a few minutes left over at the end of the meeting, where I bring out the decision and action tracker, and we note down key decisions and actions that have been committed during that meeting. And so then over time, we can make sure to follow up on these decisions and actions as needed. In my case, like I said, I work on regulatory submissions. So we have our submissions forecasts, which are, okay, what submissions do we have upcoming in the pipeline, as well as the dashboards, which I like to think of, what are the submissions that are currently in the queue, currently being worked on, so that we have that broad vision of what's coming up and what's currently in progress, and really being able to see that whole holistic view. And we have our timelines and our visuals. So I use all sorts of tools. I'd be curious to hear what tools you all use. Everything from MS Project to I've used Smartsheet, I've used One Pager. I like Office Timeline Plus, especially like we had said when communicating, those high level details to senior management. They don't necessarily want to see a whole Microsoft project Gantt chart with, 1,000 lines and it's, 10 miles long across. They want to see just those high level milestones, and I'm able to consolidate those high level milestones in a software like Office Timeline Plus. And like I said here as well, I'm also evaluating Monday.com to be also sort of a timeline dashboard visual combo. And then in terms of the documents and components themselves, since I do work on regulatory submissions, we have a review and approval matrix. We need to map out and understand who needs to review and sign off of what documents. And so that's an important document specifically for regulatory submissions, but for any portfolio and project management where you need review and approval. And then again, for the regulatory submissions, we have our content dossier tracker. So this is really tracking all of the content, all of the components for the NDA into one tracker. So the NDAs have hundreds, sometimes thousands of different components. And so it's important to have one consolidated tracker where the whole team knows where to go to input their deliverables and where to go when it's their turn to review or approve a document. And then moving on to the right-hand pane, we have our cross-functional team management tools. So these are the tools that we use to keep the whole team aligned and abreast of what's happening with the program. So we have our escalation pathway. So this is typically just kind of a map of, this is if we have a serious risk or issue to the program, this is how our team has decided and committed to escalate it to senior leadership. So I actually have a slide, a few slides from now, which actually just is an example escalation pathway tool. And then we have our stakeholder engagement. And this is just more of that verbal commitment where during that kickoff meeting, okay, how often do we as a team need to and want to meet? Is it weekly? Is it bi-weekly? Is it monthly? Do we want to meet for a half an hour, an hour and a half? Who needs to be involved in those meetings? And then also not just who needs to be involved in those meetings, but who needs to be communicated to after those meetings, who may not be there physically sitting in the meeting room. So mapping out who needs to be in the know and when, and that also kind of ties into that communication plan. So stakeholder engagement and communication plan are very similar in the sense of the stakeholder engagement I see as more of a verbal communication, and then the communication plan is the actual plan that formalizes that commitment to that verbal stakeholder engagement. And then the project charter is when you initiate and kick off your initial project, really outlining the details of the project, who will be involved, what the budget is, what the projected timelines are. So really wrapping up a lot of the things that we have in the project tools and the technical side, really mapping them out from a high level project initiation standpoint, but knowing that the budget and the timelines and the stakeholders, those are technically things that could change over time. So knowing that the project charter is it's very much a snapshot in time, right? This is what the project looks like at the initiation, at the kickoff, at the beginning. But, there is room for, maybe another key stakeholder joins. Maybe the project budget gets cut by $50,000. Maybe the timeline gets pushed out by 3 months. So knowing that this document is important, but it is just what the project looks like from that beginning state. And then process training. I think what's interesting is before becoming a project and portfolio manager, I actually didn't realize that this was part of what some project and portfolio managers do, but it is a part that I actually do truly enjoy. So when we do have a new process or a new system, as the project manager, I kind of take it on as my unofficial duty to communicate new processes, new systems, new tools to the team, because it it kind of links back to that stakeholder engagement, right? As new information becomes available, as new processes become available, as we roll out new systems, I become that central person. So like I said, we're doing a Monday.com pilot. So I'm responsible for, running that pilot, but also training, my colleagues on how that Monday.com, if we were to implement Monday.com in our systems and processes, how that would look from an overall project and process standpoint. So I've been kind of taking on the hat of a trainer in some capacities, as well as project planning and mapping. So this is, again, it kind of links to that forecast, really having those conversations to talk to those cross-functional teams to say, okay, like what's coming down the pipeline? How can I start staging and preparing for projects that are going to be coming into my shop soon, but also speaking downstream and speaking to colleagues downstream of me saying, okay, we're wrapping up with this. I just want to make you aware that this is coming to you soon, and really mapping out what's going on in the whole pipeline and kind of taking those blinders off, right, so to speak, to make sure that you're staying up to date and aware of what's going on outside of your shop, what's coming into your shop, what's outgoing from your shop, and really having that holistic view of the portfolio. And then we go to our project management core pillars. So I've separated these out by program and portfolio management, project management, and relationship management. So the first one being program and portfolio management. So these are just some kind of key learnings that I've had through my experience in program and portfolio management, and some key things that I do. So on the portfolio and program management level, I think of parallel processing, right? Managing multiple projects at the same time, and also looking at what those interdependencies are between those two projects. Are we going to have a resourcing issue? Are we going to have a budget issue? Really looking at it from that holistic view, as opposed to just looking at it from a project to project, independent project to project standpoint. Forecasting, this is what I was saying in the last slide as well, really looking and managing what's coming next. So obviously looking at the parallel processing, which is what's going on in the shop today, what are all the different projects we're managing, but also forecasting what's coming within the next 3 months, what's coming within the next 6 months, 9 months, and how will that affect that parallel processing? How will the projects coming into our realm, how will that affect all the other projects that we're currently managing? And then alignment with organizational business needs, making sure that what you're doing in your shop or in your role or in your division department aligns with the corporate goals. So something that I like to do is I like to actually print out the corporate goals and have them near me, so that from time to time I could reference them and make sure that the projects and the tasks and the portfolios and programs that I'm spending my time and energy on are in alignment with what senior leadership wants delivered by the end of the year. That's very important, right? We don't want to be going rogue and creating all these new extra different projects and things and focused over here when really our focus should be over there. And then also identifying opportunities for streamlining deliverables. So this goes to what Katie had mentioned before. I'm big into process improvements. So really looking into process improvements, innovation, creativity, and using that to make systems and processes more effective, but obviously still aligning with organizational business needs, right? So there's a balance here. You don't want to go so far out of the realm, but you also want to think outside of the box. So maintaining that realistic view that everything that you're doing, even if it is outside of the box, even if it is an innovative opportunity, making sure it still does align with those core business goals. And then moving on to our center pillar, which is project management. So this is more project focused. So taking our view from looking at the holistic portfolio down to looking at each individual project independently. So like we talked about on the last slide, risk assessment and mitigation. So going through and assessing the risks that are for each project and making sure that we have a mitigation strategy, but also making sure that we're tracking those, right? Because risks are ever evolving. So it's easy to say, oh, let's just, jot down all the risks we foresee in this program and then close the book and not look at it again. But what sense does that make, right? The point of risk assessment and mitigation is it's an ongoing conversation because we constantly need to be assessing the risks for each of our projects to make sure we're mitigating them effectively, to make sure they won't cause any issues or delays for our projects. And then the next one is scenario planning to enable decision making. So for example, right now, I'm working on a project, a submission, and we have multiple scenarios, right? So there's a scenario where this could happen, and then our submission would be this date. If this doesn't happen, then our submission would be this date, or we could try this new creative pathway and our submission could be this date. So posing different options in terms of budgets, in terms of timelines, to your senior management, and then having those conversations with them to enable them and allow them to make that decision and to provide that endorsement. So, because if you're just going to your senior leadership and you're just giving them one timeline, then they're just going to say, okay, well, that sounds good as long as, we can get all of those pieces together on time and make this submission by this date. Okay, good. But if there are, and this is where that creativity comes in, if there are other avenues or other opportunities, or if you can parallel path a few things, like really creating different timelines, different budgets, and bringing them to senior management so that decisions can be made based on those. Project timeline development, like we were just saying, creating either one or multiple timelines depending on the needs of the program, and making sure to communicate that to stakeholders, both within the project team as well as senior leadership. Action and decision tracking, I think we discussed this before, making sure that during your meetings, during your discussions, that you're tracking, the actions and the decisions of the team, and that you're following up on those to make sure that those commitments are truly do come to fruition, and that when someone says they're going to commit to something or deliver something, that those things are done, and to make sure that the decisions are tracked so that we don't keep having that lingering question, oh, what did we say we were going to do about this? Because I know I've been in a few project teams and meetings where oh, I think we talked about this, but I can't remember what the outcome was. So in order to kind of, save time and become more efficient, have someone, either yourself as the project and portfolio manager, or someone else dedicated within the team to really be tracking those decisions made so that you don't keep going back to the same decisions. Front-loading activities. So as much as you can, doing things sooner the better, right? We don't want to wait to get all of the activities done at the 11th hour before we have a committed date to submit by. So what are those things that they don't depend on other things, right? We can do those right away, and there's no expiry and there's no issue that information would become obsoleted or that document would become obsoleted. What are those opportunities that we can get things done sooner rather than later? And then we have our issue escalation process. Like I said, I'll be discussing this in another slide, but working with the team to define what issue escalation looks like. What do we determine to be an issue, and how do we escalate that accordingly? And then relationship management. So this is where we talk about people, right? This is the culture, this is the team. So really, like as a project and portfolio manager, you almost become a pseudo team manager, right? You may or may not have other direct reports, but when you're project managing a project, you become, there's that somewhat dotted line into you where you become the manager of the team, right? You're managing the project, which means you're managing the people contributing to the project. So you might not be their direct line managers, but they do have accountability to you. And facilitating discussions. You're most of the time hosting the meetings. So you need to ask the right questions. You need to facilitate those discussions. You need to get those answers. You need to map out those timelines. You need to log those risks, like all of the things that we were talking about in the other two pillars. That's your role. So you need to make sure that you're getting the key information from the key stakeholders so that you can create the vision and create the project plan. Creating alignment, this is very key and very paramount. Making sure the team is on the same page, because I don't see how a project can come together and everything be done if everyone is going in different directions, right? So creating that alignment by being and kind of leading into the next thing, transparent communication. So making sure everyone is on the same page, sharing the risk log, sharing the timelines, sharing the actions and decisions from your last meetings, sharing all of the information with the team so that the team knows exactly what direction they're all going in. Because really, you as the portfolio and project manager, you're steering the boat, right? You're the captain. So you're the one who's really there to guide the whole team. So it's up to you to be transparent and to create that alignment. And then this is just an example of the cross-functional submission project team membership. So this is just a submission team. Like I said, it's just an example. It could be any team, right? But the point is that you are there at the top as the project manager to really truly bring everyone together. And this is just a typical example of how a project manager manages multiple cross-functional key stakeholders. You can also think of other teams, right? So you would transpose this diagram, and other teams are right next to you, right? Leadership has a similar structure and they're right above you. So really you can make this as big or as small as you want, in the sense of this is the actual project team, but the project team actually links into the bigger team as well. And team membership on any team varies on, I put submission type, project type, organizational structure, titles, etc. You name it. This is just your typical submission project team. So like I said, I would be up there as the regulatory project manager at the top, partnering closely with regulatory strategy, which is right next to me, regulatory CMC, labeling, publishing, statistics, clinical and non-clinical medical writing, clinical sciences, clinical operations, non-clinical pharmacology, safety. So this is my typical project team, but these titles can be swapped out for anything. Depending on the company, you may have all of these resources. You may have multiple, one person wearing multiple hats, right? You may have the regulatory strategist be also the regulatory CMC. So that would just become one circle in the diagram. So there's multiple ways to kind of envision this, but this is kind of how I like to envision my team structure. And I know we talked about this in a previous couple slides. So this is the issue escalation process. This is the one that I follow. Again, I'm not saying this is the one that you have to use, but this is the way I like to visualize how I escalate issues within my team. So we have our project team. So that's the team that I'm specifically leading for the specific project. And then we have the portfolio team. Again, like I said, small company, I become the project and the portfolio manager. So I'm also the portfolio person as well. But typically, I would say in a larger company, you may be the project team leader, and then you would escalate it up to the portfolio team leader, who would then escalate it up to the leadership team. But in my case, like I said, I'm the project team and the portfolio team, and then I would escalate that up to the leadership team. And then this is just a slide to go through the keys to project team success. This is just how I think of project team success. Again, none of these slides today are a hard and fast rule on anything you have to do. And these are just things that I have found in my career as a project and portfolio manager to be helpful. So the goal is a successful project, right? A completed project within, the specified time and budget with little to no risk. So the first thing is take accountability. So have a clear understanding of your responsibilities and how they impact the overall project team. So this is project team success. So this is for everyone, right? Not just you, not just your team, but everyone on the team. Proactively communicate project updates to the project manager and come prepared to the team meetings with your project updates. Escalate when needed. If you do encounter issues or risks to the agreed upon plan and timelines, let the project manager know immediately so we can begin to resolve and mitigate this risk accordingly. Ask questions. Leverage the cross-functional knowledge of the team to help you be successful in your contributions to the project. And finally, collaborate. Work together with your teammates. This project is a group effort. So this is a slide I actually like to use during my kickoff meetings with my teams, so that we all have kind of that basic covenant and understanding of this is what we want, right? A successful project. And this is kind of the roadmap on how we're going to get there. So I think that is my last slide. So I will stop sharing. And now time for questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brooke. This was really wonderful, and I loved listening to. I mean, especially from a person coming from a completely different background and now getting into trying to understand what the pharma industry is all about and the PPM and project management. This was really insightful. So thank you again so much. And yeah, if anyone's got any questions, please feel free. If not, I will bore you with mine. And if I'll just mention that, if everyone would like to, if someone would like to just raise a hand and, and just speak up, please unmute yourself and don't be shy. We don't bite. So feel free to ask questions. And, we've got Brooke here and she will answer. Is there a specific, or is there a question you would like to answer, Brooke? Is there something that people ask you a lot and you can think of it and just that someone would really benefit from it? Is there something like that?
Not that I could think of off the top of my head, but I guess kind of to turn it back around, if anyone had any like comments or examples they wanted to give on anything that they've seen, or done, or success stories based on anything I talked about, I think that would be also interesting as well.
Great ones. Is there any challenge you're facing right now, or you've been facing for the past year and a half, except Corona, let's say?
I was gonna say, oh, you took the best one, because I was gonna say that's been the challenge, right? And I don't mean from a perspective of working from home. I mean from a perspective of I'm in regulatory, so we're dependent on the clinical trials. And so there have been some clinical sites that have been shut down due to the pandemic. And so that's completely out of our control. And so that's been a major hurdle to us in our timelines, because until we can get these clinical trials finished and the data from the sites, then that could be a potential barrier to our submission going out on time. And so that's been a huge issue. And then also just, I know I talked about it, team alignment, so just in general, sometimes like people have different visions on the direction we should be going in. And so it's, constantly I'm trying to, steer the boat in one central direction. But sometimes we kind of get a little off track. And so and COVID aside, I should say. So really just keeping the team on track and on point, and keeping them, also keeping them motivated too, right? Keeping the team, kind of, having that
great vibe and energy and really optimistic.
Yeah, like having that goal at the end of it, like we're all going to get here, we all want this, like we all want this successful submission at the end of this. And so so kind of keeping that as the central focus. So even when sometimes people get frustrated, like I said, going back to example, right, because we can't get in that specific site, that is frustrating. And so trying to keep the team aligned and motivated, I think it's just, those are kind of like core things that they don't just go away, right? A lot of what I talked about today, it's not like a one and done, right? It's not just like a checkbox. You don't just build a timeline and then that's it, or log a risk and then that's it, or
You
align
kind of
the team
adapt as you go.
it's all an iterative process.
Yeah, we've got some questions actually. Thank you for answering. We've got Aisha. Thank you so much for commenting and asking questions. You mentioned different software that you use in your role. Do you recommend one over the other?
Yeah, I'm honestly, I'm really enjoying Office Timeline Plus because you can track a lot of timelines and milestones, and the visuals are just really, really nice and easy for people, especially people who aren't project managers don't necessarily enjoy the Gantt charts like on Microsoft Project. It becomes a little bit of an eye chart, and it becomes a little cumbersome for people to really want to be locked in and focused on looking at those timelines. So I really love Office Timeline Plus. It's actually a plugin to PowerPoint. I think I worked with my IT person to install it. I think it was like $100 or something. It's like low barrier to entry when you think of software. And like I said, it plugs right into PowerPoint. Most of us use PowerPoint. I use it daily, actually. So I highly recommend it.
Thank you. So Aisha, get one. It seems like something you can get at Target, so get one.
Yeah, exactly.
Aisha, and she's got another question actually. She says, how do you handle difficult stakeholders and/or team members? Ooh.
That's a great question. Yeah, so if someone is being a little difficult, I typically like to just approach them on the side individually. I don't think it's appropriate personally to approach someone in the middle of the meeting with other people there and say, hey, what's going on? Why are you why are you being difficult? And that's the thing too. I'm joking. I wouldn't just call someone either and ask them why they were being difficult. Usually I approach them individually and just call them and say, hey, is everything going on? Is there something I can help you with? So I try and see, and usually the root cause is they just have too much on their plate. And so it does become somewhat of a PPM issue in the sense of that it becomes a discussion that I need to have with leadership to get more resources assigned on the project so that that stakeholder can work effectively and get their deliverables done. So it's not necessarily that they're being difficult for sport, but rather due to circumstance. And so I like to think that that's like the whole pharma industry. I like to think that we're all really good people who come to work very motivated and wanting to help patients. And so I think I've been blessed, but I think that's pretty much the norm in the industry, that if people are being difficult or not delivering on their commitments, it's not, like I said, for sake of, it's something else going on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Brooke, for answering, so kindly, and thank you, Aisha, for asking, because I feel like you have to be a mentor as well. Kind of lead people to the right direction and really solve issues that are within the within the room. Like you're delivering a proper presentation, or really, someone is being really just not kind, and exactly as you're saying, most of the time it's really because people are having troubles with handling multiple things at once, and so I feel like being a mentor is fits well here. We've got a question from Alice. Thank you, Alice, for stepping in. Have you ever struggled with your role versus a project leader, for example, in terms of duplication or unclear accountability, and how did you or would you overcome this, if so?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. I appreciate that, Alice. Yeah, so it's true, right? So we joke here, we're like kind of building the plane while we fly it, right? So I'm the project management office, right? I'm the PMO, yet I'm actually leading the actual NDA submission as the project manager, right? So I'm doing like a few roles at a time. And so I'm trying to use this like duplication that you had mentioned, Alice, in your question. I'm trying to use that to my advantage, right? So as the project management office, when I have that hat on, I'm trying to think of tools and systems and processes that will aid all of our projects that we have ongoing, whether it's in clinical, whether it's in manufacturing, whether it's in regulatory, and then I'm actually piloting those tools, processes, and systems in the regulatory department, which is technically where I'm seated right now, so that I can see if they work here. And then if they work here, I can disseminate them into the other teams. So that's probably a very specific answer just to my current situation, but I hope that can maybe help you all in some way in your roles if you are wearing multiple hats, trying to find those efficiencies between your two roles.
Thank you so much for the question. Yeah, thank you. We've got another question from Marcus. How do you solve process/role and responsibility issues within your team or organizational process weaknesses affecting your project? And that's from Marcus. Thank you so much, Marcus.
Great, thank you for the question. So I resolve process, role, and responsibility issues again as they kind of come up, right? So when you're going along, you identify that something just isn't working, or we don't really have a process to handle, like I said, dashboarding and trying to determine resourcing. So that's why that was the impetus, right, for me to start researching Monday.com. So that's kind of been my way of doing it. It's not a perfect science, but as issues come up, right, necessity is the mother of innovation, I think they say. So basically, as issues arise and as there's a need for a process or a system, that's when I bring one in.
Perfect. Thank you. Hopefully that answers the question. If not, please feel free to.
Yeah, please feel free to email me. Yeah, if I didn't answer your question perfectly.
We've got another question from Greg. Hello, Greg. He's one of our upcoming speakers. Teaser. How do you visualize risks at portfolio level?
Yep. So at a portfolio level, that's a great question. So that's where you can use what I'm looking at right now, dashboarding software, right? So you can actually use software to kind of consolidate and roll up all your risks. Right now, what I'm doing is just a little bit more simple, is basically consolidating the risks on Excel spreadsheets and kind of creating multiple tabs for each project, and then consolidating those risks at a portfolio level. Not the perfect way of doing things, but like I said, I think there are tools and systems that are more efficient and effective at doing that. I'm hoping, like I said, fingers crossed, that Monday.com, I don't need to push it too much on you guys, but it's kind of been a hot topic on my mind lately because I am trying to visualize timelines, risks, budgets, things more at a portfolio level.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Greg, for a question. Thank you, Brooke, for answering all of them. We've got a comment from Alice. Thanks so much for sharing your experiences. It was a great discussion. Yeah, thank you so much. And I just wanted to mention that if you all have any more questions, feel free to contact Brooke. She's a member on our platform, and she's really kind. I'm sure she'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. Feel free to ask questions publicly, so maybe other people can give you different opinions and different views on a topic that you are interested in. And yeah, this is really lovely, and I can believe it's actually a few minutes past 5.
I know.
It flew by. But thank you so much for presenting, and thank you everyone for joining in. We've had a great amount of people here, and I think they all have to go to work now, so I don't want to keep anyone from working, of course. If you'd like to say any last words, Brooke.
Just thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your time and attention today. Like Katie said, feel free to reach out to me on the platform. Feel free. Happy to share my slides, my email, anything that you want. Add me on LinkedIn, however you want to contact me. I'm here and I'm happy to have discussions.
Yeah, thank you so much. And, as you've mentioned, if you could share your slides for people who've missed the session,
definitely.
Probably you'll be able to do it at the platform for everyone to see it publicly. And we have recorded this session, so it will be available on our YouTube channel. And I keep adding the videos on the YouTube channel as we go on, so people can actually get inspired and rewatch the videos as many times as they want to. So I would like to thank you again, Brooke. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. It was really, really lovely. And I'm learning a lot. And I feel like these webinars are a must for people, who are starting out, and moderators who are working for pharmaceutical or with pharmaceutical industry people. So thank you again so much. And people are actually clapping. So there's a button where they can clap, and this is so exciting.
Okay.
So thank you so much again. Yeah, thank you so much again, and feel free to reach out to me, to Brooke, to anyone else who would like to contact. Christopher is saying thank you, very insightful. Thank you so much again. And this was Brooke Dapolita, and I'm looking forward to seeing you online. We've got another 4 weeks of online webinars, so please feel free to invite your peers, colleagues, and I'm sure everyone will be able to get a lot of insightful information from all the webinars. So this was all for me for today, and I will see you tomorrow. Please come. It's going to be a wonderful webinar, and I will keep you all posted through emails and on the platform. So thank you again so much, everyone, for joining and tuning in with us.
That's great. Thanks so much, Katie. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.